Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's Primetime Gaming. I'm your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and my goodness, as you can hear in my voice, I have finally, for the love of Jehovah, turned the corner and got my regular voice back because, man, it has been a struggle with illness the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, Mrs. Boomstick is still reeling from the flu, but she is, of course, hopefully, by week's end, we'll be back to her normal and healthy self. But we're here to talk about video games. And as you can tell by the excitement in my voice, not only did I put an incredible panel of gamers and some of the best people I know on social media together for tonight's show, we have some really hot and tasty takes on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X that should get this chat fired up early and often. So let's get right into the introductions. Now you know this gentleman as being very active on social media. He is someone that I have had the absolute pleasure of working with in the past on Breakfast with Boom and a few of the other shows that I used to do on a regular basis before rounding out the 3 shows I do weekly, making his Primetime Gaming first appearance ever, the voice and leader of the TXR Xbox podcast on Sunday evenings, my very good friend, Invader Gaming. Welcome, dude.
Hey there, Boomy. Thanks for having me on Primetime Gaming. It is a pleasure to be here. Welcome, everybody in the chat. I am thrilled to be here talking with you guys. I'm pumped and ready to go. It has been a while, and I think the last time I appeared was on Breakfast with Boom back in the summertime. And you know what, guys? We've been trying to get me back on here. There's been some conflictions in the scheduling, but hey, I'm here now. I hope to do it more often. And you know what? I am pumped and ready to go.
Yes, well, it is great to finally have you back on my shows. It's great to be working with you again. And I got to tell you, every week that you do TXR with that incredible cast of gamers, every week it gets better and better. And now because we are literally in the prime of Xbox news, you guys have had a pretty stout panel as well as topics the last couple of weeks. So if you haven't tuned into one of the other finer Xbox programs in TXR, you need to check that out as soon as you're done with listening to tonight's show. So let's continue on with the panel now. Obviously, you know the next 2 gentlemen as being regular panel members, but that doesn't make them regular gamers. In fact, I would dare say they're some of the finest gamers that I know. And first up, reeling from a broken heart, that Phantasy Star Online 2, the beta, has officially ended, and it cannot wait for it to officially release in this year's unbelievable amount of games. Please welcome back to the program, Tempest Sun.
It's true. I tell you what, when you love something so much, I only played the Japanese version a tiny bit. Not enough to really get into it, but when it hit me so hard, it's almost hard to play other games till it comes out. I'm trying to find little fillers here and there. I'm trying, but it's pretty hard. So yeah, I do miss it. That is true.
Well, listen, it's great. It's great to have you back. And you tweeted something the other day. You took the family out to see Sonic. How was that?
Oh man, that was I've taken my kids to see a few movies, but for some reason, well, not for some reason, the reason is it was just a good movie. I enjoyed it. My kids really enjoyed it. I mean, I've only seen my son super excited a few times during the theater, but he brought his little Sonic toy and he was trying to make Sonic do what he was doing in the movie. He was super excited. We got home and he's like, "Dad, I want to see Sonic again." I'm like, "Oh man, you have to wait till it comes out in video probably." But
well, that's good. It's good. Let me tell you something. There's nothing like family time, and there's nothing like seeing something that had the potential to be terrible. Especially if the original design, the director went back and took the feedback of the people, and he redesigned Sonic, and it cost them millions and millions of dollars to do, but they did it right. Yeah. And it's one of the bigger video game openings.
It's the biggest.
Yeah, broke records.
And I will say, if anybody was on Twitter, Instagram, the forum, whatever, complaining about the original design, this is almost unprecedented what happened. I don't think anybody's ever took this fan feedback into this much consideration. If you were one of the ones that wanted to see the movie but thought Sonic looked like a freak of nature, well, they changed it. He looks awesome now. So go out and see it, man. If you're interested, go give them your money, support them, because this was it was good. So kudos to them.
Well, listen, great to hear that you had fun with the family, because at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. And bringing up the rear, our resident Cape Crusader, someone that I think is not only an up-and-coming podcaster, but someone that I think has a lot of potential to bring some serious goodness to the content creation universe in Cybernox. Welcome back to the show, my brother.
What's going on, Broom? Your intros are the best. I appreciate all the love. What's up, chat? I am hyped for today's topics, man. They're going to be fire. So let's get this thing started.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here, dude. Super appreciate that. Of course, like I said, he would be here like a superhero catching a bus falling from a broken bridge, showing up at the nick of time, our resident go-to man for everything and anything that is GameStop, someone that will be one popular dude with me, at least, for sure, when, of course, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X is reservable at GameStop, because he'll be telling me first, and suck it, people, if you don't like it. Please welcome Gaming Forte.
Yo, man, I had to play football in the line at the grocery store to make sure I made it here in time. I was sitting there looking at the clock. I was like, oh, man, I was like 7:30. Oh, I can make it 7:40. Oh, man, it's going to cut it real close. I'm walking in the parking lot at 7:51. I'm like, man, I'm about 15 minutes away from my house. Let me send a message. But I made it. I actually made it during the intro, so I actually call that a win. But
that's definitely a big W, brother, for sure.
Definitely.
So.
Well, I'm glad to be here, man.
Well, thanks for being here. As always, this show is powered not only by the 100 people already watching, and we're only 7 minutes in, which is just blows my mind, but the amazing people that come to hang out on this panel each and every week. And obviously, we could not have a show without having you guys here every week to talk gaming. So let's get into now. Some people are going to be asking, So Shady is here. He will be here momentarily. He is handling some personal business, but he already explained to me to explain to the lovely folks listening that he will be making his grand appearance in Empire style very shortly. So when he comes in, we'll give him his proper introduction. But let's get into, of course, why everyone is here. And that is because of the awesome topics that I have on tap. And in one of the most damning reports to come out in 2020, Bloomberg.com is reporting that Sony is currently struggling with the PlayStation 5 price and costly parts, and it could really put a damper on the next generation console launch, and it's going to put it in a pricing war with Microsoft's Xbox Series X. And I don't necessarily know if that's where they want to be. Now, I know there are going to be people who are going to ask, well, boom, first of all, this report, who is Bloomberg.com? What relevance does this paper have that they could be talking about the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X? Well, just to give you an introduction into exactly who they are. They are a major global provider of 24-hour-a-day financial news and information, including real-time and historic price data, financials data, and trading news, as well as analyst coverage. Now, that in itself should clear any doubt that this is coming from a reputable point of view. But again, it is an opinion piece, so we're going to break it down exactly what they said, and then we'll decide, or of course, the chat will decide on whether or not what we're talking about has relevance and or worth your time to be here this evening. Now, scarce components have pushed the manufacturing costs for Sony's next PlayStation to around $450 per unit, forcing a difficult price-setting decision in its battle with Microsoft, according to the people with knowledge on the matter. And at $450, just to make the PlayStation 5, the report is suggesting that the PS5 will cost as much as $70 more than the current PlayStation 4 Pro, which is priced at $400. Now, let's not forget that that's a total of $470, and that's not going to include the millions of advertising dollars that have not been factored into the already near $500 console. And this is exactly why Sony has been ultra quiet in the last few months. And if the 9.2 teraflops of power come to fruition, Sony is going to find themselves in the same place that Microsoft did in 2013. And if you add to the fact that all of the big Sony first-party AAA games will have been released prior to the launch of the PlayStation 5, with The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and Final Fantasy VII releasing for the PlayStation 4 this year, the PlayStation 5 could not only launch at $500, be less powerful than the Xbox Series X, but not have one huge AAA game to tout for the next generation launch. Now, video game companies, as you know, often sell hardware at thin margins or even at a loss because they profit from lucrative game software and recurring online subscription services. Sony's chief executive officer, Kenshiro Yoshida, has said that the business should be judged by the number of active users and not hardware sales. And that is a little shocking, considering that if you know any of these ridiculous console war forums that some people like to hang out with, 109 million to Microsoft's 50 million is all that matters. And apparently that's not the case. I want to go to Invader Gaming on this first because he is our esteemed guest. Invader, listen, here's the thing. The PlayStation 5 is currently, from what we've heard, from what has been reported by numerous places within the industry, going to close in at either 9.2 or if it's overclocked, at maximum 10.0 teraflops. Now, I'm not saying that's a slouch in any way. But when you talk about the reigning joke that led 2013 PS4 versus the Xbox One, we talked about 180 Ps, right? We talked about 2 blades of grass more. We talked about 720p most of the games and 920p, and power was touted as the most important thing. And we saw that the narrative or the goalpost, depending on who you ask, has changed over the few years. And when the Xbox One X came out and the power narrative and the crown was now switched over to Microsoft, and it appears that they're going to retain that power. But the question that I have for you is this, and it's a two-pronged question that's going to take a bit of a bit of a put on your thinking cap to answer. If the Xbox comes out at $500 and is 12 point whatever teraflops, because they're going to try and overclock it, and it could potentially be slightly higher than 12 teraflops, and somehow or another Sony drops their next generation console for the same price at 9.2 teraflops. And they won't potentially not have any major first-party AAA games to tout. Where is this going to put Sony, and what position do you think that their fans are going to be feeling?
Well, Boom, I mean, this is a lengthy topic, and we kind of touched on this. Actually, we did touch on this last night on TXR, and we basically came to the conclusion that, obviously, power does matter, and honestly, likely the PS5 will hit a price of $500 from the sounds of things if Microsoft really, really wants to hit them too and match them. First, I just like to say that this report, it isn't from some random poster claiming to be an insider on Reset Era, right? It's from news outlet Bloomberg. And while, I kind of question their reporting at times, it's certainly plausible that somebody tipped them off to this. And really, this kind of makes sense with the way Sony has been all mum about the PS5. They've yet to show off the look of the system, and we haven't been told of any real showcase or event for the console. Now, I remember, and you kind of touched on this, I remember back in the, February of 2013, they had an event to reveal the PS4, and they seemed very confident with what they had back then. And right now, I'm not getting that same vibe, that same
great
confidence. And honestly, if they're still trying to figure out the pricing and are waiting for Microsoft to make the first move, then their posturing, really, it does make a lot of sense. Now, I've seen like the cost breakdown. If the manufacturing, if it does cost presumably $450 American to manufacture, plus packaging and such, all this little stuff in there, we're looking at a $500 console here. So, they can't win on price from the sounds of it, and they're holding back. They're waiting for Microsoft to announce the price. Microsoft has been bold, really, from the start of the year, late into 2019, and really the PlayStation, Sony, they have to present their exclusive games. They have to present PS Now and the overall improvements and ecosystem that we're going to get, because they are going to lose that power narrative. Actually, they've kind of lost it since the Xbox One X came around. So, it's interesting where we are right now with this.
It is very interesting, and it's also, look, here's the thing. No one's raising any flags on this particular program. I can't speak for any other show, but I can tell you very simply is that we know Sony. Sony is bold, and they're ballsy, and they have no problem pushing it up in your face. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to be vulgar, but you know exactly what I mean by that. They've done it this entire generation, and they've used those tactics almost in every year. Even when they weren't putting out major AAA games, they were finding a way to get the consumer to know what the Sony brand was. The fact that it's now, we're halfway through the second month of the year. Now, I understand it's still relatively new, and we still are 9 or 10 months out from from official launch from either of the consoles. It is pretty telling that they have not said anything. And I think what's worse and what's more concerning, and people should raise an eyebrow, just like The Rock, is when they go public and say, when public information gets out there and leaders of the Sony PlayStation brand are saying we are currently struggling with the price. That goes to show you that they are, no one's going to say that they're cowering in the corner of Microsoft. No one's suggesting that at all. But what I am saying is that it is concerning and should be concerning to Sony fans. And this ideology of, well, Sony's going to swoop in like superheroes and take $100 loss because I love Sony, I'm sorry to say you are sadly mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you agree? Would you agree with that as Invader?
Yeah, I would. And they've had the narrative for this past generation ever since the consoles were revealed. They had the press on their side. They had the entire narrative to this generation. I mean, obviously, we were touching on it in the right before the show began about power narratives, and remember how people were arguing about blades of grass on GTA 5? Like, it was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
that high definition grass, brother.
But that's
100%.
how pathetic. 1080p, 780p. Remember that famous thumbnail too? It's just, things got really ridiculous and out of hand this gen. And now I get the feeling that the reason why they're not talking, the reason why we're not seeing any console, any event, is that they're waiting for Microsoft. Microsoft is talking about being the most powerful console. They already showed their bloody console, which is shocking in itself. But that shows you how bold they're going to be. I mean, we'll get to that later on, I assume. But really, it just seems like they're playing the waiting game. I have a feeling it's going to be a little while until we see them reveal the PS5. I get the feeling they're scared to share the specs. that, again, they just can't have that power narrative going into next gen.
Well, look, it is certainly going to be interesting. And yes, the second part of this topic, which I split into two companies, I started out with Sony because the Bloomberg report is legit. It's not only legit, it is damning. And we're going to get into some other aspects of it right now. Before I get into get into the rest of the panel, but I just have to thank a couple of people. First of all, Smuzz246 with the outstanding and very generous $3 super chat. He says, "Great panel, great show, great show. Super chat is working." Well, thank you, dude. Super appreciate the generosity. And our good friend LMNOPO drops a $5 super chat. He says, "Could Sony delay the PS5 to 2021 and ride software sales yet one more year? Why 2020? Oh, listen, I mean, I got news for you. I don't think that they can. I think that if you give Microsoft even 6 months,
it'd be game over.
The generation would be over. Even if they somehow went back and were able to rework a few things. Now, folks, you got to remember, it's, when we talk about reworking software and console innards, it's not like you go over to your local auto parts store and change the hose of your car because you don't want to spend $500-600 for the mechanic to do it. This is something, these specs and these they're done years before the console starts to manufacture. It would cost Sony millions to go rework anything at this point. I think that what happened with them, and I could be thinking a little outside the box here, this could be the reason why there's been such a big shakeup at the head of Sony, right? Maybe they were resting on their laurels. Maybe they listen, the one thing I want to remind people is this, okay? Just because Sony dominated this entire generation doesn't guarantee them a domination factor ×2 for next generation. And the reason why I say that is look at history, folks. All we have to do is go back and look at the history of gaming and see where it went wrong, right? You go from the PlayStation 2 dominance. They completely ruled the roost. PlayStation 3 comes out. They have a horrendous E3. One of the heads of Sony gets out there and said, if you can't afford it, get a second job. They had a terrible showing, terrible marketing, terrible messaging, and the system was $600. It ran on cell technology. And yes, did they eventually eke it out at the end? Sure. But they started off terrible, and they lost millions. And on top of a horrible E3 to start the PlayStation 3, they had that huge breach where everyone's credit card information got stolen because, quite frankly, Sony didn't give a flying shit about PSN, and they did it put together with chewing gum and straw, right? That's where that was their inner structure. And we saw the same thing happen for the Nintendo. The Wii sold gazillions, right? One of the best-selling consoles of all time. And they went and they kind of rested on their laurels. They dragged their heels in the sand. The Wii U came out, and I think as of today's date, I think they sold 11 million Wii U's, which is horrendous. Now, all you have to do is look back in history. What happened from the Wii U to the Switch? Total 180. Look what happened from the PS3 to the PS4. Total 180. So you want to see failure? 360 to Xbox One. Mismarketing, mismessaging. Don Matrix saying, if you don't want to go online, we got a console for you. It's called the Xbox 360. That kind of stupidity costs them the generation. The Kinect 2.0, it being $100 more than the PS4 and less powerful. These are so we know where they stepped on the landmine. Now that's not going to happen again. So who's to say that Microsoft cannot see the same success that Sony saw from the PS3 to the PS4 and from the Wii U to the Switch? It could easily happen. And it looks as if that all of these changes that Sony had done towards the last half of 2019 might have been a little bit too late, because we are now 2 months into this year and we're hearing all of this bad press towards Sony, something that's unprecedented. So I want to go to Tempest Sun first on this. Tempest, when you hear Bloomberg First of all, there were some people, I saw it on Twitter, I saw it in a couple of forums, that were downplaying, oh, Bloomberg is not that important of a paper. Well, I think that if you're saying that, you're a boob, because they are one of the finest financial papers, and they report 24-hour-a-day news.
Yeah.
This isn't a slouch company, or some new website called BCW that just wants to talk out of their ass. They have a tremendous status quo behind them. So when you hear that Sony is struggling with the price of the PS5, when you hear that the guaranteed February 5th show has come and passed, and now we're hearing that there isn't going to be one on the 29th of February, it's supposed to be happening sometime in March, and now we're hearing sometime possibly in April. Now we're hearing that it may not happen at all, that they're waiting for Microsoft to make a move. That doesn't really exude confidence for me. What is your opinion on this?
Something strange is happening, man. I don't know how you can look at any of this news and not be a little befuddled. I mean, I'm not quote unquote like a Sony guy, but I own a PlayStation. If there's a Sony game, a game only on the PlayStation I want to play, I buy that puppy and I play it. You know what I mean? That's why I love being a multi-console gamer. But I just look at this and I'm like, at what point did stuff start happening? Because a lot of these moves, they don't happen overnight. I mean, you go off of having probably their best year ever in 2018. Somehow, some way through 2019, stuff just started changing. I mean, Sean Layden gets left go with a tweet, publicly. Haven't heard from the guy. I think the only thing he's done is say some like political crap on Twitter. That's all he's done. We have no idea what happened to him. Like a day later, they restructure PS Now. Shortly after that, they allow the information to get out there that Death Stranding is a multi-plat. It's going to PC. Just all these things continuously add up. They close down a studio. I mean, it's just, there's like a list of things that are just strange. So I just don't know when it started happening. I don't know why it started happening either. I couldn't tell you, but this is definitely a different PlayStation division. It's different, man. A new boss is in town, Jim Dance Moves Ryan, I think I've heard him called before. So I don't know what they're doing. The fact that they opened up a website that just said, we're excited to share news with you, but we're not ready yet. I mean, while they're doing things that are just kind of funny, in December, Microsoft announced or showed us what the console looks like. I mean, and blew our minds. And we've had like little bits of information sprinkled out throughout these, last couple months. I mean, Ninja Theory, just because they felt like it, was like, hey, we're making 3 games. Here's Project Mara. I mean, they did that on like a video over YouTube. I mean, they're so drastically different. Now, what I will say, it's not all doom and gloom. Listen, on one hand, I said 2018 was their best year. This might be Sony's best year. It's possible. If Last of Us 2 is as good as everybody say it's going to be,
it's going to be amazing. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Then so you got that. I don't know what to make of Ghost of Tsushima other than finally I'm kind of excited to really play a PlayStation exclusive. I'm excited for that one, so I'm going to be picking that thing up. So, and they just had Dreams, which I have zero interest in. I think most people probably have zero interest in it, but apparently it's really, 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 really good. So, they just had Dreams, so they're going to have a fantastic year. But the weird thing is, with saying that, with the news of the price and everything like that going into next generation, dude, they're saying they're going to be doing the same thing Microsoft said. Nobody seemed to give a crap when they came out and said, we're going to support the PS4 for 2 to 4 years. I mean, they went, Matt Booty said 1 to 2. Microsoft was like 2 to 4, so nobody seemed to care when they said that, you know what I mean? Right. So like, if they're going to be supporting the PS4 for that long and doing the same thing Microsoft is doing, when you go into next generation, if both consoles are the same price, but one is, people say slightly more powerful. I have a feeling it's not going to be slightly. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more powerful than the PS5, the Series X. So if they're going to beat them on power, probably match the price. And if not, only $100 more. And then if they come out with the Lockhart that's only $300, they're going to beat them on price too. Plus Game Pass, plus xCloud. I just don't see how, if Sony's supporting PS4 generation still 2 to 4 years to come, you could just keep playing the stuff that they come out with there. Why would you not look at the new line of Microsoft consoles and be like, well, why wouldn't I get this? You know what I'm doing? You know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it personally. It's not all doom and gloom. Listen, Sony is still in more markets than Microsoft is. They're still probably going to sell more consoles, I'm assuming. That's a very, very huge possibility that they're still going to sell more consoles, even though Sony just came out and said, that's not what you want. You want more users. They just came out and said that, which is crazy. And that's what I mean. It's a different Microsoft and it's a different Sony than 2013. This is a clean slate. So what consumers have to do is don't go by brand loyalty, dude. Just look at what you want. Look what each one is offering. And it's going to be a clean slate because they both said this generation, they're both going to support it for a while. So you got time. You have time to keep enjoying whatever it is that you have now and pick what the new one is. So that's my take on it.
No, it's a fantastic take. Real quick, Cybernox, before I get to you, I want to just thank Sovereign Cognito for the outstanding and very generous $10 super chat. He says, this is what I want as a gamer. Xbox Series X and PS5 to be the same in speed and performance. Since I'm buying both, that way first-party devs on both sides truly shine. F the fanboy narrative, gamers win simple. Well, first of all, thank you for the outstanding generosity. And yes, I agree. I think both consoles are going to be ultra powerful. I think they're going to be doing things that we didn't see either of them do in this generation. But we also cannot forget that there was a narrative thrown down the throats of anyone that enjoyed Xbox gaming between the years of 2013 through 2020. And that narrative got old. It got and it was constantly paraded around as if it was a trophy of sorts. And it got old, and we saw that it not only transitioned from community's opinions, we saw that the extremist fanboys on both sides, which are both terrible parts of the community. I'm going to say that right out now in public. If you are one of these extremists that won't tip your hat to the other side simply because it's a brand piece of plastic that you cannot support or get behind, there is definitely something wrong with you. It's okay to be a fan of a team. Like I'm a fan of the Steelers, but I wouldn't want to see the quarterback of the Browns or the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, sustain a serious injury, because that's not what true gamingship is all about, right? I would never say it, nor would I ever want to see it happen. So if you are part of these extremist groups from either of three of the communities, that goes for Nintendo as well, because they have them as well. That's not a community that I like hanging out in, because it sometimes they cross limits. It's okay to cheer for one, and there's nothing wrong with cheering for your favorite team. And if that's Team Xbox, great. If it's Team PlayStation or Nintendo, that's good too. But Cybernox, I want to get your opinion on this. But I want to just read another excerpt from the interview. From the article, I should say. Now, some Sony gamers, game staff, think that Sony, the company, should sell the new console at a loss if necessary to match Microsoft's price, while other Sony executives, and I guess according to the report, would prefer to make money as the company did with the PlayStation 4. And this is a direct quote from the article. We must keep PlayStation 5's bill of materials under our control, and we need to make the correct number of units in the initial production. And this comes from Chief Financial Officer Hiroki Totogi. He said this in an earnings briefing earlier this month. Now, I'm going to say this. This is the worst case scenario for Sony, and this is a nightmare situation that could seem likely. Again, we're only speculating here. The question that I have, and I'm going to ask, of course, this to Cybernox, is do they take a huge loss on every PlayStation 5 sold to drop it to $399, cutting it $70? Okay, and again, if it were launched at $400, they would be losing $70 per unit, not including the marketing budget that would be on top of this. So they would be technically losing $100 per console. For every console sold, they would lose $100. Now, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that in the first 6 months, they sold 5 million PlayStation 5s. That number would be unbelievable in loss. And the question is, could they make that up in software sales and in service sales? And considering they're not going to have any major first-party games launching, the answer is probably not. What do you think about this? Do you think that this report is credible? And do you think that they're going to come in at the same price as the Xbox Series X at 500, but also be significantly less powerful?
Man, I honestly don't know what Sony is going to do. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, in my opinion. I think Microsoft caught them with their pants down when they, when they displayed the Xbox Series X at the Game Awards, and they just keep getting more and more momentum. I think Microsoft knows that they have the most powerful console over Sony, and that's what's leading them to wait. I don't know. I don't think they can sell it at a loss, man. I between both companies, I think Microsoft has other divisions that can make up that loss for the Xbox units, but I don't think Sony can in this case. I don't. For everybody that's hoping that this is coming in at $399, just look at the technology that's in both these boxes, right?
Ridiculous.
It's crazy. Even if you see it, you see when people try to build PCs for the same price on either one of these machines, it's nearly impossible to build it for that amount of money. If manufacturing costs for this console is at $450, you still have packaging, you still have shipping, you still have a ton of other stuff. So for them to put it at $399, I think we touched it briefly last week. There's, in my opinion, there's no way that they can take that much of a hit. Especially, how many are they going to sell until it balances until that economy scale balances it out? They would be taking millions of dollars probably as a hit, on each console. I don't think they're ready for that. I've also I stated multiple times here on the show that they're sending a little bit of mixed messaging too. I think Forte touched on this last week as well. They want to try to get the PS5 into people's hands as fast as they can.
Yes,
right?
That
That's
came
what they wanna
directly
do.
from Jim Ryan, by the way.
But at what cost? Like
Yes.
that's insane. If they put it at $399, they're gonna take a significant amount of a loss on these units. I'm not sure they're gonna be able to do that. I've always stated before they're gonna in my opinion, one of the most difficult things that they're gonna have, because they have so many units out there. They have 100+ million PS4s out there right now, is transitioning all of their consumers over to the PS5. Obviously, the hardcore is going to be there day one, but is the hardcore going to be enough to make up that difference once they buy? And another thing, they're now going to do backwards compatibility, correct?
Yes. Well,
So
again, with the PlayStation 4, but we have heard rumors that everything is going to be backwards compatible. At least that's what we're hearing, but confirmed, I believe it's definitely all PlayStation 4 titles.
Right. So if they're speculating, or their assumption is that they want people to buy software to make up for the hardware that they lost, people are going to bring their library. So if you know what I mean, if people are like, okay, I'm buying this for $399, but I have my whole library with me, maybe I can buy just one or two pieces of software here, but I still have all my other hundreds of games. I don't have to keep purchasing software. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't think they can. I don't think they can take the loss. I think it's going to be too much of a loss. I think if the PS5 comes out at $499, they either breaking even or having a little bit of profit there. But $399, I think, to me, is going to be too low.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, especially considering that the confirmation of it costing $470 to make, right, or $450 to make. According to the report, it was $70 more than what it currently costs for a PlayStation 4, which would bring it up to $470. Now, if it is $450 to make, that extra $50. You said, well, wait a second, could they launch it at $450? Sure, they could. They could absolutely release it at $449, being a $50 price difference from the Xbox Series X that we're hearing is going to launch at $499.99 USD.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, let me just touch on one more thing.
Sure, come on in.
I think the difference too between Microsoft and PS and the PlayStation in this case, it's gonna be, I think Microsoft has a stronger partnership with AMD than Sony does. I think they buy more of their products. They have AMD's chips going in all their.
They're also co-engineering
right,
the Xbox Series X chip.
They're doing everything. So I think Microsoft could probably get a little bit better price. That's why they're thinking of probably putting in a $499. Yeah. So I think that might help Microsoft on the long run too.
Hey, real quick to go along with cyber, one thing nobody's mentioned is they've said that they are going to replace their server racks for xCloud with the new hardware. So not only are they ordering millions for the consumer, they're probably going to be ordering a lot for their server racks too.
Yep.
So
that's a great point. That is a fantastic point that a lot of people won't take into account. You got to remember, the more chips they order, the lower the cost. And if they're ordering 3 times the amount of chips, not only to manufacture Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S that's supposed to launch at $300.
And at $499s, both of these machines are going to be a steal for the level of fidelity that they're going to be putting out. I'm telling you, it's insane.
No, look, it's going to be right now. It's a chess game, and both companies. It seems as if roles have been reversed for sure. And if you think that I'm lying, if you think that I'm trying to create some sort of a narrative here, where we cover all 3 consoles on this particular podcast, and I think we cover them fairly. We're just going based on the news that has been presented by articles. This is, yes, we're going to give our opinion on it, but we're reading verbatim from the article. We're not trying to generate a narrative, but there is definitely a role reversal for both companies. Microsoft has become bold. We're going to talk about that in the second part of this topic, about how bold they've become and how bolder they could be with their pricing and what they're going to do. But Sony seems to this isn't a case of Sony keeping their cards close to the vest. Not at all. What this seems like to me is complete disarray at Sony, at PlayStation more specifically. They seem out of whack. They certainly do not seem to be the same confident Sony. Because like I said in the opening, we know what the confident Sony looks like. They are in your face. They are on TV. They're at basketball games. They're doing things never done before. That's the Sony that led this entire generation. That is not the Sony that has been showing their hands as of late. And real quick, before I get over to Gaming Forte, I have to thank Gotham Guy with the outstanding $5 super chat. He says this question for you, Boom and panel: if Sony matches the price at $499, then does Microsoft still launch a 2 SKU attack, that being the Scarlet at $299? Yes, they absolutely go for the juggler.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And let me just put it to you this way: if Sony launches at $499 and Microsoft's Xbox Series X launches at $499, which, and again, it's just a very hot topic. Some people are saying that it's almost 3 teraflops with the way that Microsoft can overclock it. If it's a 3 teraflop difference from 12 point whatever to 9.2, that's a big difference. That's a huge difference. And if Microsoft does in fact have the lesser console, the diskless console, and launches that at $299, they are going to sandwich Sony in a position that they're not going to like, because they're going to beat them in power and they're going to beat them in price. And let's call a spade a spade. And that's why I cannot wait to talk about casual market and sales with our next panel member in Gaming Forte, because he is right in the trenches when it comes to that casual audience. Remember this, folks. Even if you want to downplay it and say that only 80 million consoles, and I say only, and I'm not being facetious, 80 million consoles were purchased by the casual market which is probably even higher than that. You have to understand that the same people that were Xbox 360 players that left the Microsoft the platform to go to the more powerful and less expensive PlayStation 4 is those same people. Those are your casuals, folks. They don't have a loyalty to Sony like you and I do, or the hardcore. Yes, they have a library, but they don't have 300 PlayStation 4 games like I have, right? They don't have that. They probably have 25 games in the 6 years that of the PlayStation 4's life. So do you think it's going to be hard for them to leave 25 games behind to go over to a cheaper or a more powerful Xbox platform? Now they have it. Now Microsoft is going to have a two-prong attack in a $300 system for the casuals, or with Game Pass that includes every launch title for free, because they're probably going to include either a month, or we're hearing a 3-month pass for Xbox Game Pass in every console sold, so they won't have to buy one game, or that hardcore semi-soft core that wants the power because it's a $500 box and it's more powerful. Listen, folks, consumers are not boobs. So let me get to Gaming Forte on his. Gaming Forte, I want to go to you next because your opinion has been very clear. You believe that Sony doesn't have to make a move because they're the market leader. Now, this is where I will slightly disagree. I think I like to harken back to the Mike Tyson Buster Douglas fight. Mike Tyson went into that fight. He was a champ. He destroyed people. He was KOing people in the first and second round from match after match after match, right? And here comes this dude, Buster Douglas, that nobody heard about. Nobody heard about him. And that was the time when Mike Tyson had fired his original manager. He was transitioning to a new marketing team. He was a different Mike Tyson, and he didn't train as hard. And he didn't go in there with everything that he did before to make him the champ that he was. And what happened during that fight, Forte? He got his ass handed to him by the no-name Buster Douglas.
Sure did.
And I'm not saying that Microsoft is no name. What I'm saying is that there could potentially be the same scenario for Sony because they're the market leader. And they're not the market leader by a couple of million systems. They're the market leader by 50+ million consoles. All right. We know what kind of first party games they bring to the table, and maybe their arrogance is going to possibly potentially cost them the next generation. It certainly looks as if all the cards that we've already laid out on the table come to fruition. What are your thoughts on Sony struggling with price and Microsoft positioning themselves to have a two-prong attack, one of $300 and one of $500? And if Sony matches the price, they are clearly going to be outplayed in power.
So let's get back to the second thing that you said. I did say I don't believe they need to make a move, but they can't live in this world of hyperbole and not say any damn thing, especially when you're being attacked from all sides as much as you are. You know, we were all operating under the assumption that Sony can beat to their own drum because they can make news whenever they want to. Right now, they're making so much news in the negative content, they kind of got to say something to get people excited about the platform. And I still think people are excited, but people are just anxious to find out what are you actually going to do, because everything we hear is about them being scared, about them being petrified, about them shaking, them not wanting to make a decision because they're waiting on somebody else to do it. Those are all negative connotations that people don't want to associate with Sony. And honestly, that is what I always praised Microsoft with ever since this whole narrative started. They put the screws to Sony and said, hey, we're going to make you uncomfortable. And that's what they're doing right now. Now, let's be for real. Everybody keeps wondering about this Sony being different and everything. Well, this Sony is completely different. There's no Andrew House. There's no Adam Boyes. There's no Jack Trenton. There's no Sean Layton. There's none of those people walking through that door that help usher in the PS4 era.
Yep, they're all gone, and that's a huge loss. We're not talking about one or two people, dude.
That's 4 people that was in high positions that left the company completely. So, there is a lot of anxiety, I believe, going on in PlayStation. I believe they're trying to stick to the formula. We're gonna be able to do. We're gonna be fine, and I do believe Sony's gonna be fine because overall, what do we constitute as winning? Like, we understand. All I think right now is happening is giving Microsoft a more fighting chance than they would have had in the beginning if Sony would have just came out and said what the price is, because Sony is still a global brand. They're still available in more places. System-wise, Microsoft already decided a long time ago that we can't compete with them on the system front. So that's why we got to create a service like xCloud and Game Pass to like supplement to get the games everywhere else, because we all know games are what's basically give you the finances and the revenue to be able to move forward. That's what Microsoft wasn't getting by just relying on traditional hardware. Sony doesn't have that problem. Neither does Nintendo. But the thing that Sony is running a risk of is allowing the narrative to go too far, because as of right now, I believe Microsoft, as of right now, will they outsell the new PS5 at launch when it comes out? Under the narrative that it is right now, yes, they will, because there's more reasons for you to buy an Xbox because of Game Pass. You got Halo, we already know it's going to be in a box day one with 3 months of Game Pass, if that's to be believed. So there's going to be reasons for you, like everybody keeps saying. Games are not going to be a problem. You don't have to buy a single game when you get your new system. We already know backwards compatibility is 100% there. It's still up in the air about PlayStation 4. We think that backwards compatible PS4 games or all PS4s are going to be there. They haven't officially came out and said anything. The only thing they officially said is our SSD is super fast. That's the only thing we really truly know about the PlayStation 5 right now. And we know that the controller has been redesigned. And that's pretty much it. We don't know what the system looks like. We don't know any of that stuff. We got a whole bunch of rumors of a whole bunch of stuff, but none of that stuff is concrete. So Sony is operating in a vacuum right now. They should be really afraid of what's happening right now with Microsoft, because Microsoft is being something they haven't been since 2008. Super aggressive and going after everything. And an article just came out today. People are literally taking what Phil Spencer was saying about saying that Xbox is in it to win it and everything, and now he wants to be super competitive. And he said, and they're putting articles up saying that Sony is the reason he's doing this, but he never said anything about Sony in any of those articles. It's all about what Microsoft is going to do. But people are so starving for Sony to say something. People are putting things out there to try to get Sony to react to it, because they're not doing anything. They're standing pat. And guess what? If I was Microsoft, I would stand pat right with them. I would be like, you know what? Who has more to lose by not releasing a price? We know Microsoft doesn't care about overall system sales. They completely moved out of that ecosystem. The only reason we have a Series X on the table is because the fans want it. That because Microsoft said the fans want this, and we want to supply the fans with what they want. This is what we're going to do. We're going to bring the system out. We already knew the next PlayStation was going to be PlayStation 5. So PlayStation has more at stake than anybody at this to make sure this system gets out into the wild to more people. Even Jim Ryan said himself, we want to have an unprecedented amount of people move from the PS4 to the PS5. Well, when I think $500, that's kind of not going to happen at that price. So it sounds like it's going to be a slower burn. That's why I was thinking like the system's going to be way more less powerful than the new system, because if you want to move a system like that, it's going to have to be $399. But with these new rumors, which 100% seem to be true, I don't think you're going to take a $50 loss on top of another $70 loss. Even though I think they can manage it short term, it's still something you don't want to do. So now they're looking at a situation where we're going to release at the same price, unless Microsoft decides to release the system at $600, which Sony would absolutely love. But I don't see that happening. Yeah. They would love that, because that would fix their whole issue. But as of right now, Microsoft's going to put them to the test and see exactly what's going to happen. And I think ultimately both these systems are going to be $600. I think short term, I'm not 600, 500.
500. I was like,
Yeah, 500, not
600.
600, 500. I think I've been betting 600 for a while, but yeah, I finally acquiesced to everybody that these systems are going to come out at $500 because nobody wants to see a $600 system.
Well,
and I get that, but I do believe that these systems are worth $600.
No, they're worth it
for sure.
They're worth $600. That's the biggest thing. But I'll tell you this, maybe, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you. I believe both these systems are gonna release at 5. Short term, for the first year to 2 years, Xbox is gonna probably outsell the PS5 because we're going to see a slow adoption rate of these new systems. It's not going to be as fast as people think it is. The fact that you got to think this year alone, you got 3 big games that are coming exclusively to PlayStation: Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2, and Final Fantasy 7, which is next month.
Yes.
All of those games are coming out this year for Sony. Microsoft's next big game isn't till Halo at the end of the year. That's the one big, other than Ori, which comes out early, but I'm talking about system moving type stuff. As much as we love Final Fantasy is going to sell systems for PlayStation because people want to play a remake. And Ghost of Tsushima, if it lives up to the hype and the way that game looks, it's going to probably come out closer to PS5 than PS4, and it's going to be on both. Last of Us just going to sell systems because people just want to play Last of Us. That's a big game. So those games right there is going to make the adoption rate slower to move over to PS5 because people can still play them on PS4.
Exactly. Great point.
That's the biggest thing that people got to realize. And then next year, you'll see a little bit more people jump over as they start announcing games towards the middle of the year, 2021. People will start moving over then. And then I will say by 2022, then that's when you'll see one of these systems take off. Now, no one really knows. It depends on what Microsoft is doing. Will the initiative have their first party game ready by that point? I sure hope so, because that could be the bullet in the chamber that can literally solidify this new generation being about Xbox, because the only way Microsoft can compete with Sony long term is through games, because the system isn't a priority. Sony's going to push the system no matter what. They're going to probably sell 80 million systems again. The problem is Microsoft going to give people a reason to stay on the Xbox, and it's all going to be about the games. But I can see a stalemate between both these systems for the short term, and then depending on what these other 15 studios do, or all 15 do, in Game Pass for Microsoft, will tell the tale of the rest of this generation in the next 24 months.
I mean, great point. I mean, that's. I mean, again, we have to remember something here. As much as power means something to everybody in this panel, as power means something to the 300 plus people we have watching for tonight's show, means something to them, there is a huge PlayStation 4 base.
Yes.
That power doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
The reason why power doesn't matter is because Sony has figured out a way to make their first party games look absolutely astounding on regular vanilla hardware and PlayStation 4 Pro hardware. Their first party teams have figured out a way to bring next generation graphics with the current gen consoles. And it is amazing on what they do. There is no doubt about it. But we also have to take into account something that you touched on that was really one of the pinnacle parts of your whole scenario, Forte, was that the adoption rate to go from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 is going to be at a snail's pace, because they have 3 major games releasing this year in Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2, and Final Fantasy 7, which is exclusive for a year. Those 3 games, they're going to move PlayStation 4 hardware, I'm sure. But most people who already own a PlayStation 4 are going to be playing these games until the cows come home. So they're going to probably thinking, well, why do I need to upgrade to a PlayStation 5? And I hate to say this, and I'm not being like a jerk about it, but because PlayStation talked about exclusives, that game from Gearbox, the name just escapes my mind.
Godfall.
Yes. is not going to be enough to convert someone to spend $500 on a
their
new
launch
console.
title lineup is pretty weak right now.
Well, again, to be fair here, not to, again, we have to be fair. Blue Point is working on apparently 2 PlayStation 5 exclusives, right? Now we've heard that Demon Souls is going to be one of them. And if that is, that's great, because I'm buying it even though I suck at those games and I'm probably never going to make it past the first boss. But because I love buying all the launch games, I'll buy it, right? The second game, we don't know. We're hearing that Ratchet and Clank 2 is going to be a launch title from Insomniac. If that, in fact, is the case, that's great. That game was supposed to come out almost a year ago. We heard rumors of it. Maybe they held it back. Maybe they're obviously Ratchet and Clank 1, even right now, even today, looks like a Pixar game. Looks like a Pixar movie, and it's a game. It's an amazing game. If you've never played it, I highly recommend it. So maybe they're holding off on that. But the AAA games that I'm talking about, that someone would go out and buy a PlayStation 5 for, is an Uncharted, is a Last of Us 3, is a reimagining of Resistance. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those Horizon Zero Dawn 2. These are the games that move consoles. A Spider-Man 2, for instance, which we're hearing isn't going to be available until holiday 2021. So they're not going to have any of these so-called quote-unquote AAA bangers that Sony is known for. So I mean,
let me add this to which, because you're absolutely right, and I know, and like I said, I know it's heavy, like we're real heavy talking about what Microsoft's going to do and what Sony and the problem with Sony. That's just the narrative of Sony not saying anything. We got to kind of speak for them, which no one wants to do. Right. But I will tell you this as an Xbox fan, the one thing I am very worried about with Xbox, not Xbox in general, just one thing. Halo is the launch title for this new system when it comes out. It's going to be the poster child for this system. Boy. And I have no faith in 343. I mean, listen. He's right. I am a huge Halo fan. I am huge. I've been on Halo since 2001, where they released it carrying TVs to friends' house. That was me all the way back then. And that would still be me today with Halo if they actually made a game that was complete. And that's the problem I have. That's the only hiccup, because if there was just Game Pass and there was no Halo in that Game Pass, and granted, Halo launching with a system is huge. It's still huge to this day, but that game has to deliver, because it has to be the one thing that tells the difference between why you want to get this system over the other. Because they're, like Boom just said, they have nothing. Godfall is great. We all want brand new IPs.
Hey, they just announced a game that I think
just announced that game. We don't even know what that game is, but we know what Halo is, and we all know Halo. This is for me, and I don't know for everybody else in this chat and on this panel. This is the last chance that 343 got for me with Halo, because this is ridiculous, and I'm praying a brand new engine. It's supposed to be this everlasting world. This game has the chance to pull so many people back to the Xbox fold that left in the first place. And if they do not take advantage of this time they have this year, they will never get another chance at it. And that's the only thing I think that can stop Microsoft from dominating this holiday. Because I made a bet on Brap earlier this summer, before all the news came out about Halo and everything that was going on. I told everybody middle of last year, Halo's going to help them win next generation at the beginning, because Halo Infinite is going to be amazing. And guess what? If it's not, that's all for naught, because they don't have anything else that can bat all the rest of those other games they got coming out later in the generation. Sony likes to start slow and build up through the middle of the generation. Microsoft needs everything they can do at the beginning with their heaviest hitters. Yes. And then that can lead them into the rest of the games, like Hellblade, whatever Initiative is working on, whatever Compulsion, and the next game that comes out from Obsidian. All those games can start coming out, and Halo has to lead the way. Yes, and if they do do it, we'll be fine.
Yeah. Can I say one thing though? If you listen to as Bonnie Ross, that team had their own set of issues and problems making Halo 5. To me, they proved they can make a killer campaign in Halo 4. I think they were just chasing the COD bandwagon when they did Halo 4 multiplayer, so they screwed up there. I don't know what happened with the Halo 5 campaign, but during that development process, I guess the team was distraught. They had crappy tools. They didn't have what they need. If the rumors are true, and I think it isn't a rumor anymore, a $500 million budget, large part due to the slip space engine. They have a custom built engine just for them to make this game. So you are right though. If all that what I just said and the game isn't fantastic, it is probably over for
well, and that's the biggest thing. Like Other Zinc just said, 100% disagree with you. And for you to say this is their last chance, you're crazy. A 500 million slip space engine illustrates as such. You are absolutely right in what you just said on that, Other Zinc. But guess what? I'm not talking about for you guys. I'm talking about for me, being a longtime Halo fan, being a person that loves that franchise to death. I can't get a consistent storyline with the multiplayer. I get a good multiplayer and a bad single player, a great single player and a bad multiplayer. Put this stuff together and give me a full Halo game, and I'll be 100% on Chief. And I'll be exactly. Focus on the person you should focus on and stop taking me and pulling me in all these different directions, and you'll be fine. And you guess what? That's slip space engine is going to do wonders for them, because the Halo engine, that Tiger engine they were running, it's the same engine Destiny runs on, and we all know Destiny's a bloated thing. So the fact that they're moving to a new engine completely helps the situation. That's why I say they have to deliver with this one, because there are more people like me, hardcore Halo fans, that want to see this game succeed, but we're getting tired of being kicked in the nuts every time we get excited for the game.
I still want to play that marketing game that Halo 5 was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Come on.
Well, back to you, Boom. Get us to the next topic before we go down a rabbit hole.
We go down a Halo 5.
Halo 5 rabbit hole, right?
Well, I mean, look, first of all, when you talk about Microsoft, you have to talk about Halo. Real quick, before we move on to the next topic, I have to thank a couple of people. First of all, LMNOP drops an additional $10 super chat. He says this: Halo, GTA, Final Fantasy, and Call of Duty are all killer apps. We know Microsoft will have Halo ready. Sony won't have any of those past killer apps to launch. Or what could they use to sell the PS5 at launch? I mean, that's a great question. Right now, from what we understand, it's Godfall. That's all that we know about. And that's I don't think it's going to be enough to move consoles. Sovereign drops an additional $10 super chat. Thank you for your generosity. This is breaking news. Am hung out low reports Sony CEO was caught training on a Dance Revolution in an octagon. His finisher move is the shuffle. Jim Dance move Ryan. Well, thanks again for the breaking news, and of course the awesome $10 super chat. But I want to move on to the next topic, and you know what? Again, we're going to bring this up from a different point of view, okay? Because obviously, when you talk about Sony, you have to talk about Xbox. You have to talk about the Series X, and you have to talk about powering your dreams. Now, following up the big Sony topic that we just broke down, now it's time to look at this entire scenario from the Microsoft point of view. And as we can attest to easily, the Xbox brand has been the talk of the town since its historic Game Awards reveal. A reveal that shocked the world and has been everyone has been talking about this, from the smallest gaming publication all the way up to the biggest, known as the IGNs, Kotakus, and GameSpots of the industry. And it is the first time in a very long time that the Xbox brand not only is being talked about in a positive light, but has stolen the mind share of the industry. And in a recent interview with Gamertag Radio, who just celebrated their 1000th episode by having Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, on, he had a ton of very interesting things to say. And though what he said at the end of the interview is what everyone is now raising raising an eyebrow to. And here is the direct quote from Phil Spencer himself. He says this: "I like trying something bold. I'm really happy with the way it played out, and the response from the fans referencing the Xbox Series X reveal during the Game Awards has been an incredible response. But every decision we make between now and launch, we're trying to think about things in a different way. Some of them we might get right. Some of them, they won't be right. But we're definitely not going to be meek. We are going to be bold in everything that we're trying to do in the next generation." Now, in my opinion, again, remember, I'm saying this. This is my opinion, folks. This is a line drawn in the sand. Or you could even be ballsy enough to call it a call to arms, and one that the Xbox community as a whole has been waiting for quite some time. It seems that all of the moves up until this point have been for the greater goal that includes starting the next generation as the market leader in price, power, consumer choice, i.e. Xbox Series X and S, and potentially a $500 and $300 price point. Xbox Game Pass, the greatest gaming service available, and Project X Cloud, and a first-party launch lineup unlike anything the Xbox brand has seen before it. Now, saying this out loud is why I feel Sony is laying low and circling the wagons as we speak. They are not prepared for the next generation, and it clearly shows. The question that we'll be debating in the next 30, 40, even 50 minutes of this topic is one that's going to require a very complex answer. So Forte, because you had such an elaborate Sony point of view, I'm going to go to you first because I want to hear what you have to say about the Microsoft point of view. So let's get to the question. The question that I have for you, Forte, is simple. We know what Sony has been doing, and it hasn't been much. But we know that Phil Spencer in this recent interview said that they want to be bold. They're not going to be meek, and they're going to be aggressive. The question that I have for you is, how aggressive does Phil Spencer and Team Xbox need to be? Should they immediately go for the juggler?
Man, so this is the other side of the coin. I believe this is how bold I think Microsoft should be. I don't advocate people losing money on stuff because I feel like every company wants to do nothing but make money. But Microsoft has been put in this situation because Sony has been so dominant this generation. What do you do to a dominant foe when you got them on their hands and their knees? You put their ass completely down when you get a chance. So me personally, I would wait. I would wait for the price. I would take as long as I need to take because Sony will have to blink before I believe Microsoft has to blink on the price. On top of that, I would match any price that Sony throws out there. I would, if they drop their system at $399, I would put the X out there at $399. You know the reason why? Because Microsoft just wants to get people in the ecosystem. Microsoft has decided a long time ago. Remember when those rumors were going around that Microsoft was thinking about just giving Xbox Ones away to people or Xbox 360s away to people a long time ago? Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we already know Microsoft ain't afraid to just give stuff away. I mean, think about it. They give all their first party games away for $1. They give them away, pretty much give them away for $1. Yeah. Some people signed up for 2-3 years for $1. So that lets you know that Microsoft isn't going to be hurting to like attack Sony in every way that they want to. Now, people still arguing the fact that they say, well, Sony's not our competition and everything. Well, there's two different conversations going on here. Sony isn't the main competition of what Microsoft wants to do in the future, because Sony is actually a part of Microsoft's future because Sony's paying Microsoft in order to be a part of that future by using their cloud infrastructure.
Yes.
So they're part of the future with Sony. But when it comes to the console side, Microsoft want to show their fans, because how do you get fans to want to love your brand more and more? There is a reason when I've been reading, I forget the name of It was on Spotify. It was the Business Wars. They are doing a 6-part series where they talk about the relationship between Nintendo and Sony when they were talking about making a PlayStation, the initial PlayStation, and how Sony got backstabbed by Nintendo in that. And think what happened during that whole scenario. It drove Sony to be this conglomerate that we never seen before in gaming. 160 systems sold for the PS2, a very lackluster start during the PS3. So 86 came from all the way from behind, from being third place to being second place, only to be outsold by the Nintendo Wii, and leading this generation with 109, which I think by the end of this generation, Nintendo Switch, because Nintendo Switch is part of this newer generation, will probably be the highest sold system in the new generation. But Sony has pretty much dominated everywhere that they can. And this gives Microsoft a chance to say, you know what? Enough is enough.
Yeah.
It's enough. And can they beat them in sheer sales and volume? No, but most people, if you ask them who won last generation, who won the 360 and PS3 generation, most people will say Microsoft did. Why? Because they were the aggressive company. They were the ones, most of the games ran better on their system. They had all the third-party licensing and third-party support and all of the exclusive content on their system. And they still didn't sell more systems than Sony, but mind share wise, they were a bigger brand. That's why when the Xbox One was coming out, so many people were disappointed in the direction Microsoft was going in, because they squandered literally a whole generation worth of value that they built up with their consumer base over the course of 6 to 7 years. Or at that point, it was 11 years almost. Mm-hmm. So that was the problem. So now Sony, being a visionary, because I believe that's exactly what they're doing right now. They're looking in the future, just like they put the what is it called? The high-speed internet port on the back, the Ethernet cable on the back of your Xbox 360. The moment they did that, Xbox Live was born with the original Xbox. When they put that on the back of the system with the high-speed internet port, Xbox Live was born. They were visionary there. And now they're saying, hey, On Live did online first, but we're going to do it better. And plus, we got these other giants like Amazon and them out there that's trying to compete with us in the same space. And we don't even know what Amazon is doing, because Google is stuttering right now with Stadia. But guess what? If Stadia ever gets it together, because it does work, they just don't have any support for that freaking thing. So that's what Microsoft is focusing on. Let's keep those people down while we build ourselves up. And if we got to step on Sony in every way that we can before we get to that point, let it happen. I would literally bury them now, because you have the opportunity to do it now. Because guess what? If you allow them to stick around, then you got games like God of War 2 coming out, or whatever they're going to call the next God of War. Spider-Man 2 coming out. Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Once they start pushing out those bangers, see, people don't forget about bangers. Once they start releasing, then it's too late. You need to do it now. Get all those people in your ecosystem now, because I believe, and this isn't a shot at Microsoft. There's more and we all know this. There's more PlayStation fans in this world than there are Xbox fans.
Yes,
that's 100%
certain. You always one of the things that you bring up, a great point that no one gives you enough credit for, and I'm going to give you credit live on the air. Is that you always talk about that 30 million people that left the Xbox 360 platform to go over to the Sony platform.
Exactly.
People don't take that into account. Now, you say 30 million. It could potentially be more, but I like that number. I like that number because it's a number that could easily sway a generation.
Because that 30 million is people that they may not be they might just be PlayStation fans. They're not the PlayStation zealots that aren't going to just buy an Xbox. They're the ones that say, hey, you know what? If Xbox has something that I want, I'll go out and buy it. But if they don't have anything that entices me, why would I spend $500 extra on a system just to play 10% of the games that don't come on my system? That's the reason I say that 30 million is what Microsoft is fighting for. And this right here gives them an opportunity to get them, because if Microsoft releases first, then people have an I honestly believe Microsoft needs to put their system out before Sony does, because you need to make PlayStation fans make a hard decision. Are you a gamer that loves PlayStation that much that you're willing to pass on the most strongest system and wait for that and wait for a PlayStation 5? Or are you going to jump in head first on day one if you're a hardcore gamer and play the newest games on the newest system with the best hardware at that time? Or are you going to wait for the PlayStation? But if Microsoft does that, that's putting more pressure on Sony to say, man, our system is weaker. We may be at the same price, and Microsoft's going to launch before us. We know what happened in 2005 when that happened.
Yeah.
And that was a year, and they had a 6 million console lead at that point. So Sony has a lot of things to deal with. So being aggressive has different vantage points. Coming in at the same price as them is one, coming out before them is another, and literally putting your foot on their neck when it comes to the games that you're going to be offering is another one. And I think they have a potential to at least hit 2 of those 3 things. And if Halo is everything I want it to be, they'll have all 3 of them.
That's a great point. I want to go to Invader. Invader, obviously, you are the voice for a very excellent Xbox podcast in TXR. And what I love about your show is that even though you guys clearly enjoy the Xbox brand, there is no one-sidedness to your show. You talk about Sony in the same light, and yes, of course, you will give them the business when need be. But bringing this back to the Microsoft point of view, they did something in December that has gone almost unspoken about, except for on my particular show, because I keep my ear to the floor, and all of the content that I bring up, even though I use stories pulled from other avenues, a lot of the content is originally written. Because I have my own way of saying things. I don't want to just read verbatim from an article. I like writing. It's actually, I've enjoyed writing so much that it's cut into how much game time I actually do now, because I enjoy writing as much. And one of the things that I've talked about in the last couple of weeks has been the rehiring of Jared West. Now, some people don't know who this man is. He was in charge, or the head of, what made the Xbox 360 the reigning champion that it was. He was aggressive, and his marketing skills and tactics are what pushed the boundaries of what Microsoft could do during that generation. Well, after he left in 2011, he went over to American Express. And then from American Express went to Netflix and continued to grow their digital brand. Like, if you remember in late, I think it was 2012, there was a turn in going from physical mailing out the discs into being this dominant, Netflix on everything through digital distribution. According from what I've read, that was due to his plan. It's something that he came up with. And from what we understand, he was hired in early December, and he is currently putting together the marketing campaign, an aggressive marketing campaign for the Xbox Series X to launch this year. Obviously, we've talked about Sony being meek, being a different kind of Sony, a Sony that isn't so much holding their cards close to their vest. They seem to be in a bit of a disarray, or even a malfunction, if you will, over at PlayStation, because they're not the same Sony. Lots of big changes have come, and we've seen an aggressiveness with Microsoft, with Phil Spencer, with Aaron Greenberg. And of course, everything that they did post Game Awards 2019, it seems as if Microsoft, as a corporation and as a talking point, is on the upswing. My question to you is, how aggressive do you want to see them go? Should they step on the gas and never let go, or more specifically, step on the neck of Sony and choke them out before they even launch the PlayStation 5?
Well, to be honest with you, Boom, I think they need to step on the gas, because as to what Phil Spencer said, I think that there's been a slow yet significant buildup to the next gen consoles, and just up to this point. because Xbox has been they've been going through significant restructuring through the years, through recent years, whether it be acquiring multiple studios, moving different figureheads around, creating services like Xbox Game Pass, strengthening their partnerships with other companies like Samsung, growing Azure, and have been positioning themselves to be in a very healthy position with the launch of the Xbox Series X going into next gen. Now, Microsoft, they seem to be taking a multiple pronged approach because of what's happening. Obviously, we got Sony and Nintendo, and you got to look to the future. I mean, Google with the Stadia is not doing too well right now, but given time, they're buying up studios themselves. They might be in a good position to wait this out and stabilize themselves. And then you got Amazon working on something that we don't know about just yet, but they're definitely going to be a player, I would say. Now, do I think they'll continue their confidence like we saw showing off with the Series X at the Game Awards? Yeah, well, I think we'll see more boldness for them, like Phil was saying, because they have to be. They need to be strong with their messaging and be the opposite of how their 2013 launch was at the beginning of this generation. They've been quiet for too long, and I understand because they've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and Phil's been up to a lot, but they need that strength again. And you know what? I think it's time for them to deliver. Now, you mentioned Jarrett West, and a lot of shows I've noticed didn't touch on that because I thought that was a very, very interesting move by them.
Dude, it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, a lot of shows didn't touch on that, and it's huge because that guy, he was the chief marketing officer. I mean, now he's back in his position, but Netflix had got him. When he left back in 2011, I noticed that as soon as he left, like they didn't really have the same kind of marketing punch as they did before. And you look back at the games that like they were showcasing during the 360 era, they had some absolutely brilliant marketing campaigns. You look at, remember the like there's a really memorable Gears of War trailer, the Mad World trailer, I think it was.
Yes, that was awesome, dude.
And there was all kinds of just different little things. Like you were saying that, he was really pushing for Netflix with, online, going digital. He was also really innovative with the way that trying to get like different apps and services on there during, 2010, 2009 and so on. Like just getting like Facebook and just different other stuff like that onto the platform. He was thinking ahead of the time. And this guy, he's aggressive. And he knows what he's doing. So obviously it's just smart having this guy back in here. And I can only just imagine what he has cooking up behind the scenes. Like, so smart move by Phil bringing him back. He's, they got a really, really good guy there from the looks of it that knows what he's doing. And you know what? I have to mention this. I don't think they'll win over like the world audience because Sony's a world brand, right? They
certainly are.
They have a very, very dominant PlayStation brand that's world renowned, and you have to respect that. But I think by being bold that Xbox, they can make some gains here. They can make some gains and just sway what they lost this gen, whether it be in the US, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and the UK, just their traditionally strong markets that they've been in. I think that they can win some hearts over, but they have to set the messaging right off the bat. And I think we will see them competitive, whether it be at $500. I think that would be smart. And, while it's hard to pinpoint, like we got to see what kind of games that they announced at E3, what they have cooking down the pipeline. They have all these studios that they bought and they have something cooking up, whether it be Compulsion. They're growing these studios too. They have multiple teams working on different things. Who knows what Undead Labs is working on behind the scenes.
Double Fine Studios is apparently working on a multiplayer game. Go figure.
Oh man, well that's interesting. Hey, they can do whatever they want for all I care, but I tell you, wouldn't it be awesome if they did like a rare game like a Banjo or a Conquer?
So good.
But what I'm trying to say is though that I do agree with Phil's messaging here that they do need to be a bit bold. They do need to, it's time to for them to get out of their shell now, because it seems like they've been defensive this entire generation right off the bat. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But at the same time, you know, they've been doing things behind the scenes, and, you know, it's time. Show us what you have. You know, there's been rumors about Fable for the longest time. Show us. Just unveil. Show us. Be the beast that you want to be. They obviously have confidence in this box that they showed off right at the Game Awards. Transition that into this year, into the coming months, and just go with it. That's my take.
Well, I mean, it's a great take. It's a great take, and obviously getting Jarrett West to come back and reclaim his position that he did very well during the dominant Xbox 360 era, to have him in place almost a year before the launch of the new console, because he was hired in the first week of December, from what we understand. I don't know the specific date, but it was the first week of December. Having him in place, having him there preparing for what we think is going to be a November reveal, which would be 11 months before the launch of the console, gives him ample time for them to be aggressive. Remember, Microsoft and Phil Spencer has said this. They are working on games that they have not even talked about, that they're going to be talking about this year. Playground's game is going to be shown off. What is that going to be? Probably Fable 4. But we know for a fact it's going to be shown off. We know Compulsion is working on a BioShock / Uncharted game. We know that State of Decay 2 just received a massive upgrade in its graphics. Yes, and we know that they're currently hard at work at the follow-up for State of Decay 3, which is going to be a AAA budgeted title. All of these other companies that are making games this is shaping up to be something very special. And what I love about what Phil says is that him being the leader of the pack is saying that we're not going to be meek, that we are going to be bold. Cybernox, I want to get your opinion on this, because you've heard a lot of opinions. You see the chat with the 320 people watching live have been going back and forth, and there's been a lot a lot of people had a lot to say regarding how aggressive they think Microsoft should be. My question is to you, very simply, with probably a very unique and complex answer, is, in your opinion, how aggressive do you want to see Microsoft get between now and the launch of the Xbox Series X? Do they need to continue to retain the mind share of not only the gaming community, but the movers and shakers of the industry, who have in the past seemed to have been against the Xbox brand? Now they have no choice but to talk about the brand with excitement and wonder, because quite frankly, that's all Microsoft has been putting out into the universe.
100%. They got to keep their foot on the gas. Microsoft has been doing everything right for the past couple of years, I would say, with their how consumer friendly they're being now, how you can pretty much play all your games wherever you want. They have to keep that momentum up. And I think they're just holding their cards a little bit, and this year they're just going to blow everyone out of the water. They got E3 coming. I think all the games that we know that they're working on the back end, they're going to show, Fable. I think we're going to see more of Halo Infinite during E3, and they've just been killing it, man. They can't get, they just need to keep their foot on the gas. Their marketing actually has picked up a little bit, in my opinion. They've been doing pretty well. They're on the driver's seat, and they got to stay that way. They got Sony, on their heels for the first time in a long time. And now you have, even PlayStation owners thinking about Xbox and looking at Xbox in a different way. They have the power, and they're not giving anyone any reason to doubt them. They've bought 15 news. They have not. They didn't buy 15 new studios. They now have 15 first-party studios. They're gonna have the most powerful console next generation. I'm sure the price is gonna be right, and they're launching with Halo. Like, Fable coming. We got some extremely graphically high levels of graphical fidelity games coming. Like some of them could be simulators like Microsoft Flight Simulator, but
diversity, right?
Yeah, diversity. The diverse lineup. That's why I think Xbox Game Pass is their killer service. The diversity in itself, and that service is like second to none. There's a variety of games there. They're doing everything right. They're just they're not giving the media, they're not giving anyone any ammo, but they have to keep the momentum up. That's my main thing. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, right now you guys are doing great. Keep steady and just kill us with the announcements, show us what you have. And Phil's been switching his narrative. Before it was he didn't want to show games that were too far away. Now we're already seeing the next Hellblade. We already saw a little bit of Project Mara, so
we've seen the rare game. Everwild looks it looks fantastic.
He knows. I think he was in unfortunate and a unique situation where he was not forced, but he had to say what he had to say. Now that he's sitting right next to what's his name? Satya Nadella. Yeah. He's got a little bit more leeway on what he can do and what he can show us. And I think he's been killing it ever since, man. He's pretty much doing everything he said he was going to do. And right now, coming holiday season, we're going to get Halo, and we're going to get the most powerful console. And, they just got to keep doing what they're doing.
No, you make a lot of great points. And of course, closing out the topic is going to be Tempest Sun. Now, Tempest, when you look at what Sony has done, and again, this is not picking on Sony. This is just going based on what has been put in front of us. Actually, before I get to this point, I have to thank Philly Eagle, not only for being here and supporting the channel. He drops a $5 super chat. Thank you for your generosity, my brother. He says, PlayStation will be fine. Xbox will be fine. Sony has new leadership. None of us know their intended direction, but Sony will be Sony. Just play games everywhere. That's a great point. First of all, thanks for the generosity, dude, and thank you so much for supporting Double Barrel Gaming as always. Now, getting back to Tempest Sun, we have to look at, this industry is notorious for living and dying on the belief that what have you done for me lately, right? That's what this industry lives and dies on top of this hill over. And if you look at what Sony has done, right, it's not been much. Now, I'm not saying what they have coming out for the PlayStation 4 is anything less than spectacular. And every game is going to be a banger. It's going to be a AAA winner, and it's going to move a lot of consoles. Each one of those 3 games are going to be great. But you have to look about what we're talking about, and that's the future of the brand and the PlayStation 5, right? We got the report from several places that the console was coming in at 9.2 teraflops, right? It was going to be significantly, those are the words used by several insiders within the industry, than the Xbox Series X. Then they had, in what I still believe, one of the biggest botched opportunities with the PlayStation 5 logo. Basically, it was just a 5 added. It was embarrassing. Jim Ryan seemed out of place on stage, right? That was embarrassing, right? Yep. Then this report from Bloomberg.com comes out and basically says publicly that Sony is struggling with the price of the PlayStation 5, right? And that's for that to be public is a big deal. And then you look at Microsoft, and then again we have to talk about what have you done for me lately. December 12th, they shocked the world. Not only do we see the console, not only do we see the controller, but we get the name. And on top of that, they start talking about, they give us the reveal trailer of Ninja Theory's next AAA game in, of course, the follow-up to Hellblade 1, Senua's Sacrifice, and we're getting now Senua's Saga, right? We know that we're getting Halo Infinite. We know we're going to be getting, for sure, a new racer in the form of Motorsport 8, more than likely.
Mhm.
And on top of that, we have no idea what other surprises they have lined up. You have Xbox Game Pass rumored to be 3 months card put in every console sold. We know that there's going to be a discless $300 Trojan horse thrown into the mix. You have Xbox Game Pass leading the charge, and on top of that, you have Project X Cloud. All of the cards seem to be lined up. It seems as if at this point, Microsoft could logistically do no wrong. In your opinion, as a gamer who games on not only the PlayStation, not only the Switch, not only the Xbox, but of course the PC as well, how aggressive do you think Phil Spencer and company need to be all the way up until launch of the Xbox Series X in the rumored November?
I think they need to, and they will this time finally go for the jugular. If you look at the wrongs that Microsoft has made, they are all being fixed. And the head of Xbox this time around, Phil Spencer, this guy just says all the right things. And like I said before, when he speaks, you listen. If you look at the interview, which is this topic's based off of Gamertag Radio, a lot of people on here, they don't care about the Japanese market. They might not, but there is a substantial group of people that love the Japanese or just Asian culture, period, and love the games that come from over there. The amount of trips that Phil Spencer is making. Listen, what have you done for me lately? I am so flipping excited for Phantasy Star Online 2, dude. It's ridiculous. It's almost sad how much I'm looking forward to it. And that game was never, ever going to be coming to the States, ever. All right. Most of the Final Fantasies, the Kingdom Hearts games, Yakuza, none of those were going to come over here. Phil is building the bridges that they may have once had and lost at the beginning of this generation. And with the Asian market, I'm talking South Korea, maybe, I don't know about some Chinese games. I don't even know if people want them anymore at this point, but especially Japan. I mean, there are so many series from over there that people love. And they're probably going to be on the console now. I mean, the power of the system this time around. I mean, listen, not only 15, just as Cybernox was saying, 15 studios, which is probably going to be more, fantastic studios, games that are probably going to blow our minds. But because it's a stronger box, and they're willing to spend the money. Think of the marketing deals. I mean, The Last of Us 2's biggest competition this year is Cyberpunk 2077. I'm telling you right now, that game has the marketing rights with Xbox. They're probably going to have an Xbox One X or what have you that's going to be custom for that game.
Yeah, they already said there's a custom console coming. Sure.
Okay, then you take that custom console. Every time you see an ad come up for Cyberpunk 2077, which I believe is probably going to be the game of the year, hands down, you're going to see Xbox logo all over it. They need to get, as much as I don't like it sometimes, they need to get back the Call of Duty license. You go after the FIFAs. You go after things like this. You spend your $1 trillion. I mean, it's not all to Xbox, but you throw around that money. If you have it, you throw it around. Money speaks more than anything. So third-party deals, buying more studios. I mean, Obsidian. I've been playing Obsidian games for over a decade. Okay, one of the first Obsidian games I played, it's almost in my top 5 games of all time, and that's KOTOR 2. Fantastic game. They have Obsidian, they have In Exile. They're a storied, they're always smaller games, and a lot of people love those games. So they're going after some studios that have been around. Playground Games came out and said they want to be the best video game developers in the world. And I tell you what, if they focus their talent in other areas besides just racing, I think they absolutely can do it. $500 million budget on Halo Infinite. That is absurd. That is the Avengers Endgame with marketing budget, if you put that in perspective. So they are going all out. And I just think, like you said, if you look at every corner of what they're doing, this is it, man. This is their time to shine, and you can see it. You can hear it, and you can see it. Listen, on this interview, that the topic's based off, when he was asked about Japan, he said something that, you just wouldn't think of a studio head or Xbox game studio, vice president saying. He said every time that a Japanese game comes out and it's announced for Switch, PlayStation and PC and not the Xbox, he says he cringes.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
cringes just like I cringe as a fan of overseas games. I cringe as well when that happens. I throw my hands up and I say, why? I'm like, why? Why can't I not get this game on the thing that my wife and I are probably going to play on? Why can I not have it? That's what he's over there trying to fix. So I just think the sky's the limit this time. So I don't see with the relationships he's building over there all over the place. I mean, even like I said, South Korea, like Smilegate Games is bringing out Crossfire X to only Xbox. That is not even from the PC, for now. It's an Xbox exclusive. And that is a storied franchise itself.
And Remedy is
Crossfire.
creating its own original single-player campaign.
Yes. It looks awesome, dude. So there's a lot of stuff. Even this year, we were just talking about the great year that Sony's going to have. It might not be the same year Sony's going to have, but it's still going to be a good year. Some of it's on PC. I get that. But some of it, like Ori's coming out in March. I expect Ori. You might think it's a small game, but it's going to be a huge game.
Oh no, I'm waiting for it. I love Ori.
Exactly.
Oh, don't you worry. I know. Believe
Yeah.
me, it's shaping up to be huge.
Exactly. And listen, just because I'm a fanboy of it, I'm a fanboy. I can use those terms. I'm a fanboy of it now just because of the bloody beta that I just played. PSO2, I've never seen so much positivity and love all at once just ooze out. People are so stoked and excited for it. It is an 8-year-old game, but just the fact that it did not exist over here, it was not even an option or a thought. Everybody thought it was dead, and then it came to us, and it's brilliant. YouTubers that normally seem like they go to bat for Nintendo and Sony and just like, oh yeah, Xbox, they're doing their own little thing. They're digging it, dude. Everybody's so positive on it, and this isn't the last step. There's going to be much more after this, I guarantee you. I could sit here and list a bunch of games that I feel are probably going to make its way to Xbox. But, for me specifically, I'm considered the MMO guy on the panel. Pretty soon, I'm pretty sure Xbox is going to be synonymous with MMOs. It's going to be the MMO console.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, so I'm so excited for it. I can't even contain myself. I'm just kind of pissed off that it's still like 8 months away. So,
Can I say one more thing, Boom?
Sure, absolutely. This is a conversational podcast.
From
Go
that
crazy.
same interview, shout out to whoever that employee was that put that idea to showcase the Xbox Series X during the Game Awards. That's what I'm talking about. Because Phil wasn't up for the idea in the same interview. I think that's what he mentioned. He said somebody stood up and said, you know what, we should do this. We should be bold. We should start putting Xbox front and center and start pushing it a little bit harder than, we've been doing it on the past. And the idea stuck, and it was a great move by Microsoft. So shout out to that employee.
Yeah, he doesn't mention her by name, but whoever it was is definitely got a promotion because it was something unlike anything that they've done before, and it's something that really went over with the community. And again, you got to remember, 45 million people were watching the Game Awards, right? Oh, yeah. That they didn't even have half of that to watch the Oscars. So just imagine what that did for excitement. That's why the Xbox brand has taken over basically all of the gaming space when it comes to excitement for next generation. Again, no one's taking anything away that people aren't excited for the PlayStation 5. Hell, I'm excited for the PlayStation 5. I cannot wait to pre-order it already just to get it paid up for, so I don't have to worry about it. And yes, I'm buying every launch game, but you got to admit the mind space has completely gone in the direction of Microsoft. And I'm sorry to say, if that aggravates you, then you should reach out to Sony and let them know your distaste for them being this quiet. But real quick, we have another topic. It might not be one of the biggest topics of tonight's show, but it's one that has some serious relevance. But before I get into it, I have to thank Gamer by Choice for the outstanding and very generous $20 super chat. He says this: Great show, guys. I hope Xbox keeps doing things that show they are in it to win it. I want all companies to compete to make gaming great. We all win then. That's a great point, dude. And coming up on the rear with the very generous $2 super chat, Aaron JF94 drops a $2 super chat. He says, Phil also brought up hope with no-brainers for VR support. And you know what? Listen, I understand why he doesn't want VR, and I have other places to get that experience. I have my PlayStation VR, and I'll be getting the PlayStation 2.0 when that launches on the PlayStation 5, and I have my Oculus Quest, which is just as good. And right now, I don't need Microsoft to focus on VR. I need Microsoft to focus on power, services, and great first-party games. And once they have those three things locked down, if they want to bring VR up in the rear, that would be fine. But I want to go into the next topic, which is I think is going to have some serious relevance to it. One of the founding fathers of the world-famous Grand Theft Auto franchise, Rockstar Games VP Dan Houser, has left the company, shocking the gaming community, but also igniting concerns on the status of Grand Theft Auto 6. And in an article that I pulled from Game Informer that was written by the excellent and someone that I look up to in Ben Reeves, Take-Two Interactive Software recently announced that Dan Houser, vice president of creative at Rockstar Games, will be soon leaving the company. And according to the announcement, Houser took an extended break starting in the spring of 2019, but his last official day at the studio will be on March 11th of this year. Now, according to the article, it says, we reached out to Take-Two for a statement which confirmed that Sam Houser's role with Rockstar Games, which he founded with his brother in 1998, remains unchanged. That is, Sam Houser obviously is Dan's brother. Now, Dan Houser is one of the co-founders of Rockstar Games and was instrumental in the success of developing franchises like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. And obviously, Game Informer, according to the article, wish him the best in his future endeavors. And only time will tell if this change affects the future of Rockstar and parent company Take-Two Interactive. Now, there are growing concerns on what is a very public departure will mean for the company, but what it will mean to long-term development and in the highly anticipated Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, I am going to say this, reading numerous articles regarding Dan Houser leaving. Apparently, it was because Take-Two, the parent company, wanted Rockstar Games to basically hurry up in their development between games and franchises, meaning that they wanted them to put out games more often than they were doing so. And Dan Houser apparently did not like the pressure that was being put onto him, which is what, according to rumors, suggest he left. Now, the question that I have isn't what you might think. As well, you know, is Grand Theft Auto 6 going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Is this going to hurt what Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be? No, that's not the question. Though if you'd like to answer it in the chat as well as on the panel, that is fine. My question to you is a little bit more devious, a little bit more out there, so to speak. And my question is simple. Should Phil Spencer pick up the phone and reach out to Dan Houser, offering him his own studio built from the ground up for him to make Microsoft first-party games, giving him carte blanche with no pressure to create the same way he has all of the other 15 first-party studios? And I want to go to Invader. I know that no one's asking this question, and the likelihood of it is highly suspect, but the question still remains. He is someone that created with his brother the Grand Theft Auto franchise. He is still young enough where he has a lot left in the tank, in my opinion, and considering that Microsoft literally has spendable cash falling out of every orifice that you could possibly imagine. They could sign this dude, give him his own studio, and say, create it from the ground up, make what you want, and release it when it's ready. What do you think about that?
Oh boy, I mean, hey, I would always welcome the idea of Dan Houser forming a new studio under Xbox Game Studios. Hey, you know, why not, right? I mean, the guy, you know, he's lent his, not only has he been like, has he formed the studio with his brother, but I mean, he helped write like all these games pretty much, from Red Dead Redemption, GTA, and all that. So the guy has a really, really big talent, at writing, and a lot of creativity. Yeah, his creativity combined with, you know, the financial backing would be mind-blowing of Microsoft. Just the thought of it. The game, can you imagine the gaming news, like all the journalists and websites? It would be on fire for like days and weeks on end about
It sure
if that
would.
happened. Can you imagine? It would make minds explode. But you know, what's the likelihood? Do I really think that's likely, that kind of a scenario? No, like to me, it's more of like a pipe dream, personally, at least. Not.
I mean, listen,
it's
fun, you know, considering that we just talked about two topics that have a lot of information behind it. I thought this would be something that would be fun, just to kind of close out the night and just throw it out there. Again, there's no credence to this whatsoever. I just wrote an original topic on something I thought might be fun for us to, you know, to talk about.
Oh, absolutely, man. And hey, I give you kudos for that, because this is a fun topic. Actually, they're all fun topics, but this one is really interesting too, and kind of gets swept under the rug as far as topics go. So, you know, good for you for bringing it out. But, you know, obviously he's already been on leave from Rockstar for about a year now. I'm not really sure 100% about the circumstances myself, but personally, I get the feeling that he wants to step away from game development at this point in time. I haven't really seen any comments from him on it.
Exactly. He's been very quiet.
But you know, there could be other reasons to that too. I mean, maybe he has signed something with somebody. You never know. But would I like to see him under the Xbox Game Studios umbrella, forming a studio to make a game? I don't know, something completely different from what he's been doing, or even something reminiscent of a GTA, of a Bully. You know, how many times have we seen rumors of like a Bully 2? Maybe that's supposedly it's been in the works, but I don't know. I get the feeling that there's been, you know, a lot of push from Take-Two maybe not to do it. I don't know. Obviously, they've been putting a lot of their resources into Red Dead. Well, it was Red Dead Redemption 2, and just churning out stuff for the content for GTA Online. But you know, for him, if he did ever get under Xbox Game Studios, would I like to see him revisit certain concepts like a Bully 2 and other stuff like that? What was that racing game they did too? That what was it? Underground. What was it called?
Oh yeah, that was a racing. Well, yeah, the Rockstar racer from a while back. They did ping pong. They've done some strange things.
Obviously, but a lot of it's been fun, and they take different approaches to it, and that's what I appreciate from Dan Houser. And he has multiple facets. He goes to multiple genres, and I can appreciate that. The likelihood, you know, I don't know. Like a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, GTA 6, also that, you know, it's, you know, who knows how that's going to turn out. You know, are we to be worried? People forget too when it comes to, I mean, again, we don't know when GTA 6 is going to be announced, you know, let alone released. But let's say it's coming out in a couple of years, just, you know, 1 or 2 years. Games like that, games that are monumental in scope, they've been planned since probably before GTA 5 was released, at least, you know, in pre-production. So he would have had some input on those too. So people who are worried that GTA 6 might not be, you know, he might not have his touch, I think it will. I'd actually be worried about after the fact, you know, what GTA 7 would look like personally. But
well, listen, it's going, again, this is one of those instances where, you know, you made mention of it, and it's really interesting that you brought it up. But Cybernox, you know, Invader brought up the fact that Dan Houser has been, according to the report, on vacation since early spring of 2019. And as we get closer to March, as we get closer to April, that's going to be a year removed from game design. With big time game designers, like all creators, they get edgy, right? They want to get back in the bullpen. They want to get back to doing what they've done his whole career, and that's make new experiences. And obviously, that's not going to be with Rockstar. That's not going to be with Take-Two. And he is a big name. He's a name that if somehow or another was attached to the Xbox game studios in any way, whether that be someone that gets his own studio, that maybe he joins the initiative, maybe he joins Playground Games, maybe he just he's going to consult in something that Microsoft is thinking open world like GTA. Anything that you put this man's name to that includes Microsoft is going to get the hype train running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And personally, as it seems, Microsoft can do no wrong, and he is the perfect hype man to get aboard working with or for Microsoft Xbox Game Studios. And like I said, I think everyone would agree, this is a very hypothetical topic, but one that no one's talking about. I thought would be fun to kind of throw out there. But what are your personal thoughts on Microsoft trying to go after the biggest fish in the pond?
Phil Spencer, give the man a call right now. Find out what his favorite restaurant is, what his favorite meal is. Get him over there ASAP, and just put a blank check on the table and say, "Go ahead. What do you want? What do I need to do to get you to come over?" Now, with all seriousness, I think he's been doing this for a long time.
But he's not old.
No, he's not. But he's been doing it for a long time. He took a big sabbatical last spring, like Invader mentioned, and I don't know. For some reason, I feel like he might be done with gaming for a little. I think he might just be done. You know, he's made enough money. He's all set. The stress that comes with the job. If Microsoft were to get him, it would be probably
It'd be
like signing
world-breaking
the MVP.
news.
Exactly. It'll be amazing. I would 100% back that signing. But to your first point, Boom, and what you said that somebody was putting pressure on him to release earlier, like games faster. They're like, why would you listen? One of your GTA 5 is still making you guys billions of dollars.
Yeah.
What are you doing trying to like put any stress on the team? Like, give them as much. It's been proven. That formula has been proven. Give a team enough funds and enough time to build a quality product, and they always deliver. Like, don't put why are you gonna try to stress these guys out? You know, him and his brother. But oh man, if Microsoft were to get him, that even like, kind of some of the things you mentioned, even maybe to come and consult for them, or give him his own studio, man. I the possibilities are endless, and Microsoft has the money to do it. So if they want to get Hauser, I mean, money talks. You know, maybe they can give him a little break now. Phil Spencer picks up the phone in a couple of months and be like, "Hey, are you ready to talk?" That would be amazing. That guy, I'm sure he still has plenty of ideas that he'd like to, put forward. And man, that would be a dream come true. That would be amazing for Microsoft, let me tell you.
Well, I mean, listen, again, it's a very big hypothetical, but at the same time, no one's necessarily saying that he has to come on full-time development and get back to the grind. They could bring him in as an advisor. Gaming Forte, I want to go to you next on it. Before I do, but I have to thank Starlord14 for the outstanding $10 super chat. He says, "Sorry, Boom, missed the beginning of the show. Do we think that Lockhart will be the two-pronged attack with Series X at launch? I wonder how this will be if there's already the Xbox One X and S on the shelves." Yeah, well, I put it this way. I think that mid 2020, you're going to get an announcement that Microsoft is halting development on both the Xbox, if they haven't already, on the Xbox Series, on the Xbox One X and S. I think that those productions are going to come to a halt because they're going to be all in on, of course, the Series X and the Series S. And yes, they're probably going to be on the shelves, but I wouldn't be surprised that during E3 you get a massive discount on those consoles to get them off the shelves and make room for the 2 new consoles that will be launching in November. But Gaming Forte, I want to get your opinion on this, because obviously Dan Houser is a name that even if you aren't a hardcore gamer, you know Dan Houser and you know Rockstar Games. And when you talk Rockstar Games, you talk about Grand Theft Auto, you talk about Red Dead Redemption. Getting a name like that, even if it's only as someone that's going to come in and kind of lend his ideology to a new IP that Microsoft could potentially be struggling with, right? Maybe they bring in Dan Houser as an advisor. Maybe they go crazy and they offer this guy his own studio, which is the way I would go. How do you think this would affect the platform? Would this be one of the biggest gets that the company could get, and could it propel them to a status unseen before and a Microsoft platform?
Oh man, that is a good question, because people like this, that they don't grow on trees.
Yes, great point.
That is something definitely that this is part of the conversation we had in the first topic, where we said, what does Microsoft need to do to put their, do they need to stop them out, or do they need to let them live? I mean, it's like Microsoft has been ultra aggressive this whole second half of this generation, even more so over the last couple of months and stuff. So I believe this is just another power move that you can say. Now, will he help you short term? No, because he still has to build the narrative around the games, because he's an amazing story writer and lead designer writer when it comes to that type of stuff. So it's going to take time to get his vision off the ground. But that's something that Microsoft sorely needs later in the generation. At the end of every generation, there's always those lows. Sony always has. They seem to have the epitome to always have bangers coming out at the very end of a generation, where Microsoft has, something like Gears of War this time around was one of the pluses. But if we go back to the 360 generation, there was nothing for that last 3 to 4 years of that generation outside of Gears of War Judgment. And so, I mean, we did have Halo Reach, and that was contractionary to Bungie, but, it's very, very hard to make games. And if you get somebody out in the open like this, most people of this quality don't hit free agency.
Exactly.
This is the thing that people aren't understanding, So if I guarantee you these conversations, I guarantee you Phil Spencer knows this. He's probably already had a conversation with him to see what his thought process was. It's nothing that we're going to know about unless Dan Houser wants us to know about it. He probably, he might be just taking a break, might want to retire. You never know. But, being a person that brought that much joy to so many people's lives and so much fear to parents' lives out there. I wonder if they were going to walk into a strip club and become an narcissist or some crazy shit like that. That's the type of stories that he built, and Microsoft needs to have somebody in their staple that can do something like that. Only time will tell if this is something that he absolutely wants to do, but it would be criminal not to at least talk to that man and see what he can do for you, what you can do for him. Dude, I would make a studio. I would fire somebody at a studio to get somebody like that. I kind of look at him as like Jason Statham when he was at Bungie, because that's when I loved the Bungie storylines and stuff. When the story was always part of the game, and that's what drew me to that franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly believe that's where Bungie went wrong with their game when it came. That's why story became a non-existent, because they rejected the cut that he had to go with what they have, which is nothing. So we all know what can happen on one side if you don't have story, but if you do have story, you get games like Red Dead Redemption. You get games like Grand Theft Auto that sold over 120 million copies. And let's be for real, it's not because of the single player. It's mostly because of the multiplayer. But yes, Grand Theft Auto is still a huge thing. And the fact that he's been there the whole time, kind of speaks for itself. You know, some people will tell you that Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and Vice City and Part 3 were some of the best ones. And
I would agree with that too.
And guess who was there making those and bringing, and that's when there was no multiplayer. So get who was there making those storylines and all of that, those weaves come together. That's who you need to go after. If he wants to do it, there will be no check I would not be willing to write.
Right.
I mean, it's a great point. You know, Tempest Sun closing out not only tonight's epic show, probably one of the best of the year so far, but definitely a topic that, even though there's a lot of hypotheticals behind it, it's one of those goodwill signings. And again, no one's saying we don't know what Dan Houser's thought process is currently. Maybe he wants to leave gaming altogether, being that he's such an incredible creator of stories and characters and worlds. I highly doubt it. Maybe he doesn't want to get into the weeds of game design the way he was when he was with Rockstar. Maybe he doesn't want to take on that kind of responsibility. But to have someone like that come on and offer his, what Rockstar doesn't own and what Take-Two doesn't own, he has his own ideas. He has his own stories and characters and worlds that he created that maybe he didn't share with that company. Maybe he has a scrapbook of, ideas that just never came to fruition. Maybe he could sit down with Phil Spencer and say, listen, we would love our own Grand Theft Auto type universe, but for it to be under the Xbox Game Studios. Do you want your own, your own AAA big budgeted development house? No. Okay. Well, do you want to sign on as maybe an advisor that they could buy some of his ideas and let him lead the charge in putting this ideas or this ideology to the test on making it a first-party game? No one knows. But to leave this man out there, this ginormous free agent, and not even give him a call would, of course, in my opinion, be a terrible injustice. What are your thoughts on Dan Houser potentially coming to work for Xbox Game Studios?
Ooh, baby. I agree with what everybody's, been saying. Like, I agree with what Forte said. No check is too big for this dude. And the reason you say that is because look what he built. If I was him, I'm not his age. I know he's not old by any means, but I'm not his age. And I haven't built what he has built. Maybe the guy's to the point where he's like, I legitimately made the biggest game of all time. Where do I go from here? You could say he is just sipping on like exotic teas off on some beach, who knows where. But, I haven't talked to this guy, but, in my line of work, I talk to a lot of people. One thing, you get to these older guys, they're in their 70s, 80s, whatever, you get to talking to them and they're like, you know what, I just have to keep myself busy. I got to keep myself busy. I worked for X amount of years. And when I retired, I don't know what to do with myself. That's a lot of people say that. You'd be surprised how many people work their whole life, retire. You expect them to do nothing, because that's what I would think I would do. And then they legitimately don't know what to do with themselves. Like even you, Boom, you are retired. You are a police officer and, you're doing this as a hobby and this is what you want to do for the rest of your time. But
yes,
I know you would play video games, but you yourself, let me ask you a question. If you didn't have this, would playing games eventually get a little stale? Would you find the need to get up and do something?
It's funny you should ask that, because being a police officer who was very active. I was a very active police officer, not only with trying to stop crimes, but being there for the public. It's to serve and protect. Like, I took it real serious, and I went out every day. And one of my major goals was to make sure that I helped somebody. That was one of the only one. Even if you, as a police officer, if you only help one person per tour. You have done your job, but I went out of my way to help more because I loved it. It's something I wanted to do since I was a kid playing with G.I. Joes.
Right.
So when that abruptly ended, thanks to an unfortunate spinal cord injury, that even though I'm walking, it cost me my career.
Mhm.
And for a while, when I was forced to retire, there was some time where I kind of felt like there was something missing.
Mhm.
And obviously game playing was great, but it
Yep.
just wasn't enough. And
Right.
then when I got into content creation, and then I found my niche in loving not really ever realizing that I enjoyed writing as much as I do. I can't actually see myself. That's why some people say, well, boom, I do one show a week and I can't keep up with myself. But somehow or another, you put 3 shows and occasionally a 4th one together every week without fail. And you know something? It's that drive and that push to create that pushes me to be a better content creator and to
Right.
make shows that people are interested in. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I agree with your point that maybe Dan Hauser is feeling the same pressure right now.
Yeah, I mean, your response is exactly what I kind of thought it might be. Now, your story is very, very different than Dan Hauser, but listen, if you leave this, he could say, and it probably doesn't take long for these guys to be like, man, it's just missing. Look at Cliff Bleszinski. The guy, has probably retired 95 times and he keeps coming back saying he wants to do things, So, I could just see a situation where, he built himself up to the point or helped build this company up to the point where they are one of the companies that has the quote unquote unlimited budget, unlimited time. Who better to give you that for you to strut your artistic vision and try to challenge yourself? Can he do it again? If he's a creator, can he do it again? Can he make another best game of all time or biggest game of all time, I should say? Who better to give you that opportunity than Microsoft? Microsoft has the funding. They could say, hey, do it again. I dare you. Not that they would say that, but that's just
They'd
my
want
point.
him to do it again for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I guarantee you, conversations have been had already. And if they haven't, a shame on them,
right?
Shame on them, man. Yeah. So no, it's an interesting theory. I don't even know where the guy's coming from, but all I can tell you is it's not just one, it's not just 2. I've probably talked to 50, 60, 70, and I am not pulling your leg. Retired guys that have said they don't know what to do with themselves since they retired. They keep working. They keep doing something to keep themselves busy. I sit back here and I say, well, if I was retired right now, I'd be nothing but play video games all day long. That ain't true. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So who knows? I don't think this guy's out of the game forever. He's a creator. Like I said, it's made the biggest, most successful game of all time. I guarantee at some point in time, this guy's going to want to keep doing it. So
yeah, no, it's a great point. And obviously we are 2 hours and 16 minutes into tonight's show. It has been probably one of my favorites almost all year because we had a lot of great topics. We had an incredible panel. We had over 330 people watching live, which is a big deal. I just got to get caught up on a few super chats before we get into the outros. Dreadpool, our resident superhero who has bailed me out more times than I can count on my toes and fingers, drops an outstanding $5 super chat. And he says, great show. Sorry, off topic, but it was Cindy Walker who was the Xbox marketing person who pushed for the Game Awards. Well, good for Cindy, and hopefully
nice.
she is now making an extra 0 in her pay because what she thought and what she pushed to do was ingenious. And Aaron JF94 drops an additional $5 super chat. He said, help me set up a GoFundMe to make Microsoft do it. Yeah, listen, dude, I'm going to be right there. But listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to tonight's show. It was epic. It was fun. Lots of laughter, lots of fun topics. The chat was incredible as always. So let's get into the outros. And of course, we'll start with our special guest, Invader Gaming, lead voice of TXR on Sunday evenings. First of all, Invader, thank you so much for making your grand appearance on Primetime Gaming. It has certainly been a long time coming to get you back on any of the shows on Double Barrel Gaming on YouTube. Love what you do with your particular shows. Love what you do with your outstanding YouTube channel. And I also love what you do being as active as you are with this incredible community. Please tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, tune in to TXR and your outstanding YouTube channel.
Wow, way too kind, Mr. Boomstick. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, guys, it was a fantastic show, and I am absolutely happy to be here. We really ran through those topics and, really interesting takes. Tempest Sun, Cybernox, Gaming Forte, awesome panel tonight, and, it's such a pleasure. It's a shame So Shady couldn't be here, but hey, catch up again sometime soon. This won't be the last time. I will definitely make myself available at some point to come along here because I love this show. I'm always listening in, whether it be primetime gaming or breakfast with Boom. I love your content, Mr. Boomstick. It is awesome stuff. But yeah, guys, awesome stuff in the chat. You guys are all very positive, and you're big gaming fans. That's what I like. And you guys had some awesome comments there. But yeah, you guys, you can follow me at my channel, Invader Gaming, and of course I'm very active on Twitter at Invader_1986. And as Boom was alluding to, I am the host of the TXR podcast. It happens on Sunday nights at 9:00 p.m. Eastern time. We're an Xbox focused panel mostly, but we talk about all kinds of stuff in the gaming industry, and we try to have a very positive take on things. But again, guys, it was a blast. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, listen, it was great to have you back on. And of course, I got to make my way over to TXR in an upcoming episode. Would love to guest on that program as well. Gaming Forte, let's get you on out of here, my brother. I want to thank you for getting here in the nick of time. Love what you bring to each episode that you're on, and you are definitely a major cog that keeps the prime time lights glowing each and every week. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, which of course you're very active on, but check out your outstanding and very growing YouTube channel.
Yes, sir. Man, as always, it's a pleasure to be here on Monday afternoons or Monday nights with you guys. Invaders, love being around you, man. I know I was on your podcast not too long ago. We definitely got to do that again. That was really, really cool. Happy to have you a part of the cast today. Tempest and Cybernox, the old faithful. That's what I call them. So always glad to be around you guys. But as always, Twitter, best way to get a hold of me at gaming_forte, and on the YouTube channel at gaming forte on YouTube. And you can catch us on Basement Radio Podcast every Wednesday at 9 p.m. with my boy Slow-Mo, Backslap, Enrique, Mr. Brat, B Money, and Eric Jackson. We always be chucking it up at 9:00 over there. And then, be on there with Crossfire with Mooch on Friday nights. And every once in a while when Luca needs me, Scumcast, 7 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night. So check out all those shows. Subscribe if you haven't, because they are all a huge blast.
Well, thank you so much for being here. As always, love what you bring to each and every show. Tempest Sun, I know that your heart is broken, but Fantasy Star Online 2 and your destruction of the darkness will be happening sooner than later. But of course, This show runs with the passion and excitement that you bring to it each and every episode that you're on. So thank you so much for that. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can partner up with you, and more importantly, check out you on social media.
You can find me on Twitter at the Tempest Sun. My gamer tag is Tempest Sun. As always, Boom, thank you for having me on. Get to be on with Cybernox, my buddy. It's good to have you back, man. And Invader.
Yes, sir.
I always used to listen to you on the Dosage podcast. So I miss that show. I do. I miss that show. I loved you on there. So it's cool to be on a show with you. Never thought it might happen, but here I am. So it's good to be on you. And Forte, you were on fire tonight, buddy. I only hope one of these days I can let loose like you do. That's my hope. So, but no, the show was awesome. I loved it. And on to the next one next week.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here. And last but certainly not least, our resident Cape Crusader, Cybernox, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here. So glad that you're finally back in your seat talking gaming. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your ever-growing YouTube channel.
Yeah, man, I love coming here. Boom. Monday evenings is the best time. I get to talk about games with people, everyone, that's as passionate as I am about gaming. Chat was on fire. Shout out to So Shady. He was on the chat. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. Invader, was a pleasure, man. It was great talking to you. Forte, man, woo, you're on fire today, bro. And Tempest, man, glad me and Tempest always we'll be talking all the time. So it's always a pleasure being here with them. But
I'll be talking about.
Yeah, I'm Cybernox on Twitter, Xbox. I'm Cybernox everywhere. Pretty easy. I'll be playing Arkham City because I know it's leaving Game Pass. So if you want to check out, if you haven't checked that game out, I'll be on twitch.tv Cybernox. And yeah, can't wait till next Monday so we can talk about some more games. Boom.
Well, thank you again for being here. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us tonight on this epic episode of Primetime Gaming. I want to wish everybody a great night, a great week. And of course, I like closing out every show with these two simple phrases that my dad taught me when I was a kid. One, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those, and I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next Monday night on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends.